Queen Creek Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to welcome our president and CEO of the Queen Creek Chamber of Commerce, our very own Chris Kralik. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, pleasure to be here tonight and bring you all of the highlights from what we've accomplished over the past year. Quick reminder, the Chamber is a nonprofit, is a 501c6, not a C3. A C6 can advocate on behalf of our membership. Goals of the Chambers, it's the last one there, the free and competitive markets. When I first began this 10 years ago, didn't think that that would ever be something we'd have to worry about. Retaining private enterprise and free and competitive markets has taken up a great deal of our time now, and we'll go over that in just a minute. The Chambers of the Commerce is great for leading community-wide discussions, bringing people together, seeking regional cooperation. For those of you that were able to attend, we just had a Tri-City event with State Treasurer Kimberly Yee, and that features the Chandler Chamber, Gilbert Chamber, and Queen Creek Chamber working together. So regional cooperation, that and our EVCCA, the East Valley Chamber of Commerce Alliance, with the 8 chambers that make up the East Valley, also make us a part of the largest business organization in the state when we all come together. So we take the regional part seriously, and we also work to educate not only government officials, but the public at large on business issues and legislation that are going to affect them. Our board of directors sets the strategic direction for the chamber, and we carry out those strategic directions and the day-to-day operation. We solve problems so that businesses can thrive, because that creates strong communities. Everything we do goes through 4 pillars of decision-making, how it affects our membership, the community. We advocate for the business and community, and we participate in strategic growth versus just growth to be saying that we have growth. With that in mind, we did grow the share 5%. We have been reporting double-digit growth, but as we get larger, that number naturally comes down as a percentage. So we saw continued growth in the right direction, though. We divide our work up into 3 main areas: Queen Creek Connects, Queen Creek Leads, and Queen Creek Works. Queen Creek Connects are those things that you're most familiar with, those things that are highly visible. The luncheon, Women in Business, lunch break, coffee with the CEO, business awards dinner coming up on September 26th over at Incantera. We hope that you can all be there. Our ambassadors help us out a great deal with that. Volunteers drive our chamber. When you're a staff of 2.75, we rely a great deal on our volunteers, and we're very grateful for their service. The Business Awards dinner traditionally sells out. We are about 5 tickets away from selling out again. So if anybody wants to build an event center for 400 or 500 people, it would be much appreciated. You can see our sponsors up there. Without our sponsors, these events aren't possible. Networking luncheon sells out on occasion. We've hit the 60 mark quite a bit. We did find a way to fit in additional tables. And Women in Business was selling out. We're going to be going through some new changes for that, and I'm excited to bring you some new programming there. Queen Creek Works Biz Ed Summit is next week. I understand it conflicts with the league, so we'll be sorry to not have you guys there, but hopefully there'll be some staff. We do have about 130 people signed up at the moment, which will put us on par with where we are and fill up the Cooley Ballroom over there. Elevate for Tomorrow is slated for January 10th. Student Academy and Queen Creek Student Chamber will do in a separate presentation. Our education committee is made up of K-12, mostly CTE directors and higher ed, and we appreciate all of the insight that they give to us. We have about 140 people at last year's Biz Ed Summit. We expect we'll be right there. We had about 700 high school juniors go through E4T last year, which is on par with what we typically have this year. We're expecting as many as 1,200, and we're trying to figure out how we do that. We need separate transportation in order to do that, so we'll be looking for additional sponsorships to make that happen. Otherwise, the busing situation doesn't allow for that many students. Core and Santan Ford. Global Roofing has come on as one of our primary sponsors as well. Queen Creek Leads, this is our public policy series, and probably where we actually spend the greatest amount of our time and hopefully have a major impact. Coffee and a Mic series leads off traditionally with the mayor. Thank you, Mayor Wheatley, for that. Always a sellout, standing room only, and we're grateful to you. We just finished up with Congressman Biggs. Meet the candidates. We had a full slate this year, and they're all on our YouTube channel. You can find everything from LD15 to the school board there. We do have our own public policy priorities that focuses primarily on water and transportation, some on zoning as well. We also put something together with the state, also EVCCA, and then of course the U.S. Chamber, which helps us a great deal on what's happening with those federal regulations. This year we had 1,798 bills introduced. Considering the time that they took off, they did not disappoint in bills per day issued. Some of them actually were quite beneficial. Some of them were going to be highly detrimental. You'll see zoning mentioned over there, as the council is more than familiar with. We continue to have bills run under the guise of creating attainable housing, which actually just do away with local control of zoning. So we're going to continue to keep working on those. They don't actually do anything to lower the cost of housing, but they certainly make it easy to build apartments wherever you feel like, of any height, of any material. Coffee and a Mic, Fast Talk, and Meet the Candidate, primary parts of our Queen Creek Lead series, and brought to us primarily by SRP right now, making all of our production possible. Business retention and expansion, a key part of our services agreement with the town. We survey businesses to find out what's on their mind, how they're viewing the town, and any issues that they might have. We work well with Doreen and Jen on those issues and bring those up as they occur, sometimes leading to discussions also with Brett's team over in planning. Prior to 2020, it was the same refrain, and you may remember, it was difficult to find employees. Couldn't find enough employees, couldn't find employees. 2022 to 23, you'll notice the gap for COVID. Things got strange as we closed, didn't close, sort of closed. Coming back in 2022, 2023, room for expansion, inflation, all took center stage with the difficulty in finding employees and supply chain issues. 23 to 24, we've seen a steady shift. It has become driven primarily by either economic concerns or revenue concerns, which in some form or fashion relate to an economic issue, either inflation or the inflation affecting the consumer, so sales are down, the cost of labor, the cost of supplies, all starting to have a negative impact. The way that we do these surveys throughout the year, we try and do them in batches, but what that means is a batch at the beginning of the year, things might still have been good. A batch at the end of the year, things could be changing. And so these are based somewhat on what we're seeing as a trend. It's not a scientific survey by any means, but it does give us a really good idea of what's happening. And since, I would say, late spring through the summer, we're starting to see this accelerate. Some businesses, it's quite, as economists say, lumpy. Some are still doing quite well, can't find enough employees. Others are having difficulties. Room to grow, still an issue, but it changes now. Flex Industrial, Doreen and the planning department have done a great job there. We have Flex Industrial, and we've got our first official space in Queen Creek that's coming online. But all of that stuff that's technically located in Mesa services our market, and so we are not hearing as much call for Flex Industrial. What we are hearing, a tremendous amount, is still office space. when you look at the whole market as a bank and lender might, you'll say, well, there's plenty in Chandler, there's plenty in Mesa. As we know, businesses don't want to locate to Chandler or Mesa. They want to stay in Queen Creek. So in order to do that, we're going to need the office space. We're also hearing more and more about small businesses and restaurants. And by small businesses, they're really meaning mom and pop type of outfits, not chains. The problem that we're seeing right now is that we have large developers building out our shopping centers. They have a slate that they go to, and mom and pop can't get on that ticket. And so it's, as council knows, this is a problem until we get space to redevelop that fits that criteria. Something like the Sacred Pint that Brian McKeon is doing. Additional concerns that are popping up, childcare becoming an issue. There is not enough in Queen Creek. There's not enough in the East Valley. There's not enough, name your favorite location. It's difficult to build the spaces at today's costs, pay labor what you have to pay, and then be able to be affordable to the parents. Prices are well exceeding $1,200, $2,000 for childcare, depending on what you're looking for. So we're working with child care providers at the moment. We're also doing some surveys to figure out what the backlog actually is. We're hearing reports that all of the facilities are full, but we need to get some numbers and put that on there. Redevelopment is also an issue. The system is perfect for the large developer. Those that are redeveloping a space that may not know the ins and outs, don't understand the process or the importance of key steps, are running into difficulties. So we'll be working with the staff on those types of situations. All right, this is 2023's chart. I wanted to keep it because what we're looking at is not dramatic, but what we're looking at is a shift in the wrong direction. So 2023, 1 through 5 is our scale. 1 is a recession. 5 is booming. This is economic conditions in Queen Creek specifically. Everything was listed as booming. We're either booming or about, ready to boom. Very few people said otherwise. But what we've seen is the last few months, with the few surveys that have been done during that time, is starting to see people saying 4s and 3s. So they think Queen Creek is still doing well, but nationally, which we'll see on the next slide, things are falling out. And so they're feeling it as well and think that it's going to translate to Queen Creek. 2 takeaways. Number 1, Queen Creek still outpaces the national expectations. So that's a kudo to you and staff. But we are starting to see an erosion. And on the national scale, 3 was the primary driver last year, and now it has headed over in the 2s. We get a lot more 2s, we get a lot more 1s, just depending on what that person, what their business is. So a decided leftward shift, which we don't want to see, we haven't typically seen, so it's going to be something for us to keep an eye on. All right, tourism and marketing, another key component of what we do for the town based on our services agreement. We have 1.7 full-time staff that are dedicated to the visitor center and 8 volunteers. We were staffed 42 and a half hours per week. We have started closing early on Fridays, so we are actually staffed at just about 40 and a half hours. 250 different pieces of marketing material over there. So if you want to take a day trip, we got you covered. Come and get them. We have 200 plus annual visitors, and we handle relocation packets and phone calls about relocating to Queen Creek. Our chamber Facebook is massive. So we lead most chambers in the Valley in social media, and most organizations of our size aren't even close to these types of numbers. So we naturally started a second property, Explore Queen Creek, to piggyback on that. What we did was Explore Queen Creek is more community-facing than, say, the chamber page, where it has a print edition, the digital edition, the website, mobile app is in the process of being retooled at the moment. and Give Local and Shop Local videos. Those can be for members or non-members. Explore Queen Creek is not membership-based, and it gives us further reach out into the community. The magazine is carried at places like the airport. It's in Phoenix, over at Visit Phoenix. It's in Chandler, for example, and then goes as far as Clifton and Morenci. So anybody visiting Clifton may want to come to Queen Creek. I don't know. But what happened was we started social media to go along with Explore Queen Creek. And over the past year, these numbers are far too small for you to see, but we wanted you to see that there were 654 posts just done on Explore Queen Creek's Facebook, and that we have, again, an oversized reach and impressions for our size. Instagram, same thing. Instagram started up this year, I believe, perhaps just before the start of the year. The key thing here is that we're seeing 400% growth in our followings. Restaurant Week just finished up. Thank you all for your participation. We got press far and wide, including a major article in the New Times, which featured the Olive Mills signage. So hopefully Perry and John saw that. But we had all kinds of newspapers, websites, everything else pick us up. This was just a few of those. So Explore Queen Creek is up, functioning, and doing quite well. We are concentrating on day trips right now, primarily for our agri-attainment businesses and Horseshoe Park and Equestrian Center. You can go online, check out the calendar, check the same calendar either at the Chamber website or at Explore Queen Creek and find all of the events in town. We also do digital editions throughout the year, so all of the special events are covered as well as special interest stories. We also handle For Our Town in partnership with you all, and we've had 4 meetings now, our next one coming up on September 17th, and hopefully we'll be discussing some it's called a day without a phone, but hopefully we can translate that into a week without a phone, and it's about creating thriving families. So hopefully we'll see you all there. And then one last key issue, because I've already exceeded my time limit. 2024 ballot forum is coming up on September 5th. This is an EVCCA presentation. There are approximately 12 items, I think, that have survived and will be on your ballot to vote on. Because they're voter protected, they cannot be changed. A yes vote is forever, no going back. Because there are so many, because they are so far ranging, we're having a special forum to present both sides. That'll be at the Chandler Center for the Arts. EVCCA tries to do things that are centrally located, so that will be in that morning. People can find that information at queencreekchamber.com and get directed to the registration page.